And it's a pleasure to have you here, Jennifer. So,
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy to be here, and it's nice to have my class here. So this is a piece that won the flash fiction for the Los Angeles Review, which was really exciting. And it's called "Put a Teat in It." Um, and yes, I'll begin. It tugs at my nipple. Only the first pull is uncomfortable, then it finds its rhythm. I hold plastic corn against my breast with my forearm so I could use both hands to smush my left breast into the other horn. I shrink from the first suck, then feel the release of swelling under my skin. I'm holding plastic gramophones to my breasts, but no music is coming out. Only milky water drips into the bottles that are screwed to them. Put a sock in it. Originates from the gramophone. Put a breast in it, I think, as my nipples are being suctioned down their skinny necks. I can see the pink flesh elongating, then contracting. Long plastic tubes connect to the gramophones to an electric box that's covered with black nylon so it can double as a backpack. It fools no one. Sitting on my nightstand, it echoes like a steam engine from another era. It starts off like choo choo, choo choo, but 10 minutes in, it sounds more like fuck you, fuck you. I listen to it in unison with the sucking while I wait for 8-ounce bottles to fill. When my husband barges into the room, all I can say is, no. I've seen it all, he says lightly, as he looks for his keys or his hat. Ordinary things. No, you haven't. You've only seen me with one gramophone under my shirt, not shirtless with both teats attached. Get out. I'm the one stuck in here. Give me some dignity. I close my eyes. The industrial sound makes me feel like I'm in a factory. I am the factory. I start to leave my body. I'm always leaving my body. I notice that I leave, so I tell myself, come back. Feel animal. Feel mammal. Feel cow. In 1920, the mechanical breast pump was modeled after the bovine milking machine, and little has changed about it since. Seriously, get out of here, I say. I'm not looking, he replies, moving papers around his desk. And I wonder, how do you go back to woman after cow? Why is cow so scary? Maybe it's because you realize you are something other than you think you are. What else am I that I don't already know? Found them, he says, running out of the room. So that's it. So it's a little flash fiction piece. It's short. There's a lot, but I think it's more of like a vignette moment, a high energy moment. So I kind of drop into it at an intense place. Does anyone have any questions? You want me to keep reading? Tell me what you'd like. Keep going?
oh, yeah.
Okay. I feel like I need a break after that. I'm like, oh my gosh. Um, I know. So my next piece, also very intense. So this is a warning. In my class, I had a couple people who are empty nesters. And my oldest daughter is 18 and she's leaving for college in a couple of weeks. So I find myself like crying all the time. So I might cry because this is it's not her birth story. It's my story about her birth, but it's from like a Lars von Trier point of view, kind of. So this is my experience of it, and it's called The Beating. And I start with an image, so I drop in with that. I'm lying on the operating table, crucifix style, with leather straps binding my arms. The needle in my spine has erased my body. I am only a head. You won't be able to feel your lungs, my doctor says, but you're still breathing. Just then, something holds my breath. It feels like I'm underwater. I wonder how long I can hold this, like swimming the length of the pool there and back. I want to blindly touch the wall, but there's no coming up. I'm suffocating. The beeping intensifies, an alarm goes off. My eyes flicker into the fluorescent lights. Is she okay? My husband asks. Her vitals are fine, my doctor replies. I turn my head away from them and clench my face. I wonder if my body is sobbing, if my heart is beating. Can we untie one of her hands, my doula begs, so at least she can feel her breath? I guess, the doctor says. Someone unbuckles my right hand, and I watch my fingers wiggle. I cover my mouth, and miraculously, I feel the tiniest on my palm. I'm breathing like I'm fogging up a mirror. Suddenly, my temperature drops. A freezing sensation envelops me as if they're putting me on ice. I hear a knocking sound that's even louder than the beeping and buzzing, and I listen to it as I into my hand. Is there anything you can do about her shaking? My husband asks. The shaking is normal, the doctor says. I look at my husband, who is wearing scrubs but not a mask, and he looks incredibly young, too young to see his wife trembling on a table. Can we put a blanket under her elbow? My doula suggests. Her elbow is banging the table. The doctor's face behind her mask is unfazed by the sound. She sighs. A nurse appears. 2 folded blankets are placed under my arm. The beating stops. And strangely, I miss it. It was the only organic sound in the room. I'm going to make the incision now, the doctor says. She cuts through my tissues, slowly carving her way to my uterus. When she reaches my abdominal muscles, she separates them with her hands, like my mother, who is waiting outside, used to unbraid my hair. We have the baby's feet, says the doctor. You're going to feel some pressure. I'm so grateful to feel anything that I almost say hurt me. The doctor's hands knead my stomach like dough. She rises on her toes as she flattens me out. I can only feel the pressure. When the pressing stops, the pulling begins, deadlock. The doctor versus the body that I'm harboring inside of me. Its stubborn head stuck underneath my right rib. Its unwillingness to turn is why I'm being cut open. I don't know how I know this or even if it's true, but I know the doctor's hands are around the baby's ankles and I could feel her tugging life out of my incision. The doctor takes one step back and pulls out something the size of the universe. I breathe into my hand. The doctor lifts up this white mass of pulsing flesh high above the blue sheet like a sacrifice, and asks my husband, not me, do you want to announce the sex? No one responds. She repeats herself. She holds the baby that is not bloody but covered in toothpaste under the bright lights. Its white face tightens but doesn't make a sound. It's a. She angles its swollen genitals to my husband. Girl, he says, and the doctor nods, yes. Color rushes to my husband's face. I only thought it was an expression, but he looks like he might actually jump with joy. I close my eyes. I know somewhere I'm deeply happy, but I cannot feel exhilaration yet. My heart is cold, even colder than the ice bath my girlhood is drowning in. Tears fall from my eyes. Why is she white? I ask in the thinnest voice. Is she okay? She hasn't cried. She isn't moving. It's called varnix, the doctor replies. Babies that are early are covered with it. Somebody wraps her up. They hold her white goo to my face. I turn my neck. She has huge purple lips, my husband's lips. They hand her to him. His entire being blazes into her barely open eyes. The genetic blueprint passes, and it's instant love for them. I perform a smile and watch my husband, whose abdomen is still intact, bleed with happiness, while I bleed somewhere behind the blue sheet. And instead of being moved, I think, I transformed while you only watched. A team of eager scrubs come in and take her to a plastic case. Someone tells me they're checking her vitals. Her vitals are good. My husband follows them, leaves me, rolls the baby outside to my mother. My mother is waving and holding the baby. She will still be holding the baby when I'm rolled into post-op to wait for my body to unthaw. But for now, I am left with the women, the doula, 2 doctors, and a nurse. That was 13 minutes, my doctor says. We have about 30 more. I remove my hand from my mouth and sink to the bottom. I watch my doctor as if she is working on someone else. Her movements are small and her eyes are intense, but not unkind. She tells me she is removing my placenta. I hear something wet splash into a bucket. She rearranges my organs, cupping them in her hands, and glues me back together. The doula begins rubbing my scalp, pulling me out by my hair. I am closed up. My husband walks beside me as they roll my bed into another room. My nose itches from the morphine the nurse has injected, but I can't scratch it yet. I still can't lift my arms or wiggle my toes. I see my mother rocking the baby, who is wrapped in a footprint blanket. Someone has placed a tiny pink and blue striped cap on her hairless head. I look down at my limbs as if the heat of my stare will melt the anesthesia away. It doesn't. Someone could stick a knitting needle into my thigh and I wouldn't even know. My doctor swoops in. She lifts up my gown, removes the maxi pad that one of the nurses have placed on top of my wound to absorb my blood, and smiles at my incision. She's pleased with her work. She's the best, the nurse says. You'll hardly scar. I narrow my eyes at the nurse and look at my doctor, who 2 years from now will remove her mask and kiss my cheek after she delivers my second daughter vaginally. 2 years after that, she will save my son, who will be born with the umbilical cord so tightly wrapped around his neck that his face will be blue and bruised like a boxer. But at this moment, she asks, "Would you like to have him circumcised?" I look at her so intensely that she catches her mistake. "I'm sorry," she says. "That was my 4th C-section today." She places my folder in the pocket of the door, walks down the hall. A lifetime later, my lungs start to take shape. I flutter kick my feet, roll my ankles, bend my knees. I flip my palms to the ceiling and make a fist. I bring my hands to my shoulders like I'm lifting imaginary barbells. I open my jaw, one last ha. "I'm ready," I say to my mom and my husband. My mother hands me grace, and I look at my daughter as if it's the first time. Thank you, everyone. That was a long one. Thanks for listening.
Wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I'm like, weeping, but thanks for listening. Okay, that's it for me. Yay.
Yay. So, does anyone have any questions for our illustrious reader?
Anyone? Questions for Jennifer? Class?
That was some beautiful storytelling. The story was very compelling. And so my question is, when you're writing something with so much weight and sadness behind it, especially these days where you have to first frame it, do you find that you self-censor before you finally have your your final piece? Do you find that you self-censor a lot, or you just write as free flow and then whatever happens with that piece?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. For that piece, I kind of just put myself back into the moment, scene by scene. And for me, it was really emotional. Like when I wrote it, I was definitely like kind of weeping and going through all the emotions I didn't get to process at the time. So it was super, super raw. And again, my daughter hasn't read this, and so she's 18. And so I would have been censored if I thought about her reading it now, because it was my story as a 27-year-old, really afraid and not having the birth that I envisioned and being operated on and kind of being objectified in a way that I had never been. So yeah, that's a really truthful story. And I think for me, I'm not always able to access that point. I do have a lot of censors as a mother, as a wife, as a now a daughter. Now it was, all these things, that these labels, and I have to go to a place that I'm not any of those things and write from my experience. But a lot of the times I bury that in fiction and through different personas. But for that one, it's me, which is really scary. So thank you for listening.
Thank you for your answer.
I noticed that obviously that you wrote about your children and the birth and the pump and all that stuff. Is that one of your big subjects, I assume?
Well, I think it was at the time, kind of like anything. I kind of thought of motherhood as an existential experience, and I think it's weird that sometimes the world reduces it to this domestic thing. It's very bizarre, and pretty, existential. It's very, who am I? Like, what am I? And so I tried to put it at, for you or for someone who hasn't used a breast pump, maybe after my story, you'll feel like you have, and kind of feel the humiliation that goes along with it, and the, kind of otherness, that you are. But that makes sense.
But, thank you.
Okay, if there are no more questions or comments, we should move on. And Linda, are you there? Thank you so much, Jennifer. And I can't wait to read your book. So thanks again. Linda?
Yes, how are ya?
There you are.
I'm so incredibly moved by Jennifer's two pieces. She's just my favorite short story writer, and I'm so honored that she's here today with so many of her colleagues, and that was just such a fabulous reading. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you.
So thank you so much for suggesting her. And so as I was saying, that if anybody wants a bio on Jen, it's included in the flyer that we sent out about this reading. And again, the question that I had for Jennifer is the same question I have for you. So
Sure.
Do you want me to repeat it, or do you?
Yeah, it's a book that influenced me.
No, but you could tell us, give us the title of a book, but I wanted a book title that is representative of your work or how you see your work. It's
Right.
not necessarily the content of the book, but just the title.
Sure.
And again, first thought, best thought.
Right. Maybe A Tale of Two Cities.
Okay,
Because I am, well, I don't really like the word mixed. Maybe blended is better in some ways, but I have a lot of hierarchies and heritages and allegiances and legacies that I seem to, represent and uphold from different cultures. And I'm the only child, the only granddaughter, the only niece, the only child, I mean, of a huge line of people who seem to come from all over the world and end up in Los Angeles. And so I kind of feel, I don't know, a strange, maybe it's egomaniacal, responsibility for lots of different stories. So A Tale of Two Cities, because I feel like I have a tale of 9 cultures or something that I'm trying to rep. So yeah.
Wonderful, great choice of a title.
Thanks for that. It's so fun.
You're very, very welcome, and I'm excited to hear your work. I've read a number of your poems that I just thought were so moving and present, and it's truly inspiring. So I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Fantastic. So I'll just read this brand new piece from earlier this year called La Malinche. And I'm doing sort of a 180 because of what Jennifer read. And I hope this dovetails nicely with her work. I always hope my work dovetails nicely with hers. I'll be reading with her hopefully tonight, and then on Wednesday at Gold Diggers here in Hollywood, and then on the 6th out in Joshua Tree. So I follow her like one little blue nun after another. So this is called La Malinche. I'll just read part 1. Like a bird, you fly. You are fraught in dreams, caught in dreams. We can't know you, just like we can't know our own mother. Hot tea on her piece of land, her blood, dribbles and some songs, you know she's flying, owning everything under her hands and her feet. She promises you the world, but takes you on a carnival ride past Santa Catalina, past the bank, smearing up and down with depilatory y helado, going over such wounds with wrought iron and the reeds of her mouth. Malinche, how I long for you to know your true name. What difference would it make if you were never a lady, or the centerfold you always were, a crooked map, always a straight line to oblivion, your tongue? I must purge this addiction. How can I think of you in fellowship with sky or noble things? How can I clock with you, clacking chicle y history? 13 rabbit, you are found and clogged, you are bottomed on, you are from the shore, you are a girl, a mother, you are Ruiz's sleeping giantess, Tetipac girl, you roll in fire and history. I wake next to you while you wake us, walk with us, come walk me into the new America. Thanks. This is a poem called The Children Turn Themselves into Ice. The children turn themselves into ice, and we could be really lonely, don't you think? Are you ice? I'm a flag. Are you the government? I can be quiet. I could pretend I could imagine they never existed and the walk across the desert was a dream. I can imagine your rig is an ice cream truck, your siren, a song that calls me to the street. I can imagine the street is a desert, this border jag, the way to a school, safe. This fence, the fence between two grand properties. My father is a king of the mountain and the land to the west, where my uncle is the king of the domain beyond. Here are orchards and olive trees and peaches, fish ponds of my mother, a diaphanous dress. I imagine a movie. My pockets are full of corn. Pequeña Joana semilla de manzana, turn yourself into ice. Remember everything, but be quiet as a stone. And imagine a stone, a special kind of Kubrickian book, the kind that holds oblivion. If you can be that quiet, if you can be that useful, that slate gray and non-problematic, if you can turn yourself into ice. I heard a little girl on the opposite side of the Rio Grande successfully turned herself into ice, and she floated downstream. She was that kind of glacial child who tripped a little, left a little, and flowed. When she finally came to the sluice gate and La Paz, it was just enough to scoop out of the water. There was just enough story left.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Is there time for one more?
Oh, absolutely.
Fantastic. This is called On Reading Stanley Kunitz's The Testing Tree. Under the tree where he met the bullet, my lover sketched a place for Lorca in his book. It was all clouds and gray suits, smudges made with his thumb and forefinger. My lover was the upside down of green thumbs, the upside downer who made green things come white, red things come tense, a thing you scrape from the bottom of your heart. He was that river of saliva, longing to form some kind of mythic prince. He wandered inside like a shoehorn in the belly. I would take him in my hands, for instance, all his empathy for men or history, but there it was. Oh, and only one dead blue eye for a woman. Any woman. One woman. Me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just it was absolutely, imagery was absolutely stunning. Beautiful reading. Does anyone have any questions for Linda?
Very beautiful words. Oh, such amazing turn of beautiful. I'm guessing you were talking about your grandma in the first one.
I was talking about, thank you so much. I was talking about the Malinche. She's considered sort of the mother of the new race of Mexicanas y Mexicanos.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, I thought you were talking about your grandmother because of the references and like talking about the power of if you knew your own true name, you know. So yeah, you have a beautiful way of evoking words. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
In a way, I was talking about my grandmother because I'm European and indigenous. So I am the daughter of Malinche. So thank you
Nice.
very much.
Thank you.
Linda, can you hear me, first of all?
Yes.
I'm unmuted. That's good to know. So Elizabeth mentioned your imagery, and there's this really beautiful cascade of images that tumble over each other in your work. And I wonder, does it begin with you with an image, or does it begin with an idea or a theme, or does it begin with an emotion, or any combination of those?
Thanks so much, Suzanne, for that question. And it's such a pleasure to see you. Let's see. I think for me, it always starts with the theme. It starts with some kind of like existential need, something really crushing, like I have to right this wrong. I have to tell this tale. I have to say who lived in this house before, you know, the Poles moved in. You know what I'm saying? I have to remember what was my father's second aunt that went to Buchenwald. What was her name? What was that day like? So it's like a crushing, like it's really existential for me. Sometimes I wish it would, sometimes it starts with an image, like a photograph. When Elizabeth, I thought Elizabeth was saying like, what's an influential book? And the first thing I thought of was the Georgia O'Keeffe photographs by her lover, Stieglitz, right? And that so influenced me, those hands on those, you know, chrome tires, those hubcaps, and her hands like on her own gorgeous chrome body, and her hips, you know, subverting time and space, almost like she was compelled to go to New Mexico and find those skulls, right? So I'm compelled by themes and images, right? I think themes first, and then images a close second. What a great question.
It certainly produced an interesting response, Linda. So it must have been an okay question.
Yes, well, you always have your finger on the pulse. Thank you.
Sorry, just quickly, how do you spell Malinche?
Malinche is Malinche. That's so funny because I have a whole poem on how do you spell Malinche, because she has about 7,800 names.
Oh, okay. Wow,
Yeah.
that's intriguing. Thank you.
Do you have, Linda, do you have that poem on hand? Can you read it?
The Malinche poem, Doug?
Yeah.
No, I just was saying Malinche's a very famous character that had a political side because she was the translator for Cortez.
Exactly right. And they had a child together, and that child, Martin, is considered the first child of the new race, of the Mestiza people, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Were you asking, you wanted to hear that again, Doug?
I would hear the poem that Jerry asked for if you have it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jerry. I
About-
apologize.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Doug and I often step on each other. Yes, if they had the poem handy about how to spell, that'd be great.
Sure, sure. Okay. Absolutely.
Everything in the palm of your hand.
Oh boy. I knew I should have moved all of this to the other place on earth, and it would have been so easy had I only brought with me my grand piano. Oh, my friend. What's going to happen if I can't find it? Oh dear.
Well,
Oh,
Don't
the
worry.
weight, you
we'll
see,
have to
the weight of civilization.
we'll just have to find what book it's in and buy it.
It's actually, it's such a new piece. It's not in any poem
Oh.
yet. I mean, in any book yet. But wouldn't that be
Okay.
nice? Oh, and there it is. Okay. Good. Maybe Doug Knott, you're so famous for being an impromptu poet. Why don't you thrill us with a little haiku?
Haiku.
Yeah.
Haiku, thinking of you. What is true? That's haiku.
Right. Thank you so much. Do I have to count that, or
16
can I
syllables.
trust you? All right. So the poem is called, they call her complicated. Ixpochli siwatko olelo kichupal tetipaka kasika tongue la lengua interpreter tlaxcalana wife spouse concubine spy peacemaker pacifier map maker collaborator translator messenger captive girl woman nahua slave indigenous mother malin malina malinal se malinali malinuli malitzit malinsin malinali de Nepal Caoniana, Doña Marina, Maria Marina, La Malinche, Malinche, Malina, Sochi, Si Cuateteo, Coatlicue, Tonantzin, Tabascana, even Quetzalcoatl, Soldier, Spaniard, Eva, Mexica, Grijalba, Sicalanga, Yucateca, Princesa, Grijalba, Sicalanga, Yucateca, Princesa, Grijalba, Sicalanga, Yucateca, Princesa, India, Barangana, La Malinchisma, Electra, Doña Malinche, precarious, yet ever perseverating, the one who overcomes alterity, that converts, always revolving.
Oh,
Wow.
Thanks.
very good.
Thank you.
I would have brushed up on my Nahua if I knew I was going to have to.
Oh, you did beautifully. Just absolutely beautiful. What an astounding piece. Thank you for suggesting that, Jerry, and thank you for reading that.
Thank you
So,
so much, Elizabeth. Thanks, everybody.
so
What a joy.
does anyone have any comment or question to add before we wrap this wonderful afternoon up?
You mentioned Kalanga. I was wondering about that. You say something as part of your poem, though. You said Kalanga.
Yes. The word I think that you're saying is almost at the end of the piece. It's a Nahuatl word from old Mexico, right? Before Mexico was
Kalanga.
Mexico. Yeah, Xicalanga. It's Xicalanga.
Yeah, I'm
That's
asking
how
because one
fashion.
ruling elites in Zimbabwe. So it's funny how words something totally different. Ruling elites are from the Kalanga tribe in Zimbabwe. I was like, when
Oh. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I'll look that up. It's Kalanga from Zimbabwe. I'll look it up.
Yes, Karanga or
Wow.
Karanga. K-A-R-A-N-G-A. Or K-A-N-G-A.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you so much, Linda. I'll see you later tonight. I just want to give a message to my class that when we end, that we'll just hop into the other link. So we'll just hop in when we're done here. Thank you, everyone.
So thank you all so much for attending and for your comments and for this extraordinary reading. We'll have to have our other Jennifer read at another time. We'll keep you posted. Jerry, do you want to talk about any upcoming things?
I would love to, only we haven't confirmed any future readings. But we're talking about one for the end of August, and I have put our website in the chat. If you don't know it already, you can copy it from there and check in on our events. You can also subscribe to our mailing list our email list, so you'll get updates as the readings come along. But thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. And you guys have a great meeting. And we'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Okay.
Take care.
I sure hope so. Thank you
Bye.
so much.